Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Truth-Unspoken. We're here giving more data and more testimonials and revealing more truth. That's what we're about. We're about bringing out the truth and exposing the lies and the deception and showing that we are in a spiritual war and it is real. This is not a conspiracy channel. This is not a religious channel. This is not a political channel. This is specifically revealing the truth and then also correlating and showing how that truth comes from Scripture, right? So every episode, every time we have something, you can find what's going on today written in the Scriptures and what to look for and give us answers why. A lot of people have questions. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? And it's because of not having the knowledge of the truth makes us vulnerable. It makes us and it puts us in a place of unaware, puts us in a place of questioning, puts us in a place of uncertainty. And so, what is certain now is the attack on our children, the attack on our nation, the attack on our families. Our families are being targeted by these evil people that want to have a means of gain for themselves, selfish gain, which is money. That's all they're about. They do not care about our families. They do not care about our lives. Anyone that can deceive a child intentionally, you have a wicked and evil heart. Yes. And I don't care what your reasoning is. That's the bottom line. If you want to teach children to disregard and lie to their parents and deceive them that there's something that they're not. And you know what's funny is how come you don't do that?
Right.
How come all these professionals that are guiding our children or going to our schools and teaching our children, why don't you go get the bottom surgery?
Right.
Why don't you go get the top surgery? And then see how it feels. Or if you want to do that for your children, that's all you should be doing. Is setting your children up for that if you have children. But leave our children alone. Our children don't need to be confused. Right. Our children don't need to have a second guess of who they are and create insecurities. And here's another thing I want to mention. I have in past episodes, but I want to remind is we need to constantly put up the website that had that the phone carrier service that was automatically set up to protect the children for parents. Yeah, we need to start showing that more regularly because we want to. That goes into making parents aware, and then also these social media accounts and YouTube and the kids with the technology.
We'll try to get in the description.
Yeah. We had put it in there before, but it's been several months. But that's something that I want to circulate so that it gives parents an awareness on how to protect our children because the technological age we live in, we don't want to promote like we're in the Stone Age and we want to keep in the back education and technology. We don't want to do that because that's not the time we're in and that's unrealistic. So our children that have cell phones, to contact the parents, and they need to be used for what they're really needed for, and that's to communicate with their parents, maybe communicate with family, whatever it may be, communicate with their friends. But far as is protecting what they're able to see, what they're able to watch, because if you're paying attention, a lot of these transgender people, that was how it really started. It was either started by someone implanting the verbal seed to make them think, and then also going on social media and finding different groups, transgender groups that are promoting this. And so those seeds get fueled, they get watered,
Yep.
and then they grow into redwood trees. Mm-hmm. And so,
we get chopped off.
Yeah, and so we're here to help families. We're here to help adults that love their children, parents that love their children, educators that really do want to teach children right, really educate them the right way, and are in support of parents and support of families. That's who we want to help, and we want to continue to promote the stay-at-home inaugural. Please sign up. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, if you have nieces, if you have nephews, you should be signed up on this. You should be a part of this. Point blank. If you have children, if you have grandchildren, have your nieces and nephews, you have little brothers and little sisters, you should be signed up on this. Point blank. If you've watched this and you're not signed up, shame on you. Sorry, I got to say it, but it's true. Yes. Because we've been talking about this since last October, and we got like 30 people signed up, and we've had a couple hundred views. So that means there's people that are watching this and not signing up. You're not engaging, which means that's what this is all about. This is not for entertainment. This is for action. And this is a plan of action to where we remove money from these school districts that submit to this. You know, there's always choices, right?
Yes.
And we've showed in previous episodes where there's people that have put their careers on the line, that have put their lives on the line, that put their families' lives on the line for righteousness, for right decisions, knowing that this is not right, knowing that this is wicked and evil. You have people that have walked away from jobs. You have people that are suing their school districts because being forced to lie to parents and manipulate and deceive children. So if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Yep. And we're standing for righteousness, and we're standing for protecting children. Mm-hmm. And every adult that has watched this, you should be signed up on the website. So this is, please help promote. It's coming up next month. The time is narrowing down. And we need people join. We need people that are fighting against the school districts to know about this, because I know if they know, they'll sign up. Yes. So please share the link, like and subscribe, so that this word can get out. That's what this is about. And also creating more schools, charter schools, academies, private schools, getting our children out of the public school system until the public school system takes a seat of recognition that our children belong to us and not them, until our governor realizes that our children are ours and not his. And every legislative person that agreed and voted for these things of taking parents' rights away, and that's communism, that's dictatorship. Mm-hmm. And we don't live in a dictatorship, and we don't live in a communist society or country. But there are people that want it to be that by their actions. And this is not political. Just pay attention to the signs. Redo your research. It's all there. So anyways, we have some more videos that we want to get into with more facts and more truth, more people degenderizing or transgendering. Detransitioning. It's hard to keep up with all these ignorant narratives, honestly. Because they're all deceiving, and they're all fake, and they're all lies. There's no way that you can transgender into anything else but what you are. You can transgender into a mutilized person. That's what you can transgender. That's what you can. You're transgender. Anyone that accepts transgendering and does the surgery, find me one person that's happy. Yeah, that their body's they have the full functionings of all their parts, all their full body functions. Just find one, and let's. I would like to interview them, and then have them line up against all the other people that have done the same surgery. Because the more and more I see this surgery taking place on people, the more and more people are crying out for help and protection. That's all I see. And so, anyways, we're gonna get into some videos of people that tried to detransgender and the treatment they got, and then also a doctor revealing the truth of what's really going on behind the scenes. And all this is confirmation of everything we cover every week. So go ahead, let's roll the first video.
I was born biologically female. I began transitioning and taking hormones when I was 18 years old. Growing up, I couldn't pinpoint what my issues were, and then I realized that it might be a gender issue. When I turned 18, I did go to Planned Parenthood. I just stated that I had gender dysphoria, and they gave me testosterone a week later. Before I went on hormone therapy, I wasn't required to see any therapist or any sort of a doctor at all. So about a year and a half after I was on hormones, I decided to see a therapist about getting approval for top surgery. I walked in on one appointment for half an hour, and then she emailed my insurance for approval, just like that. Even at this point, when I was passing as a man, I still had these doubts in the back of my mind that said, what if you're wrong? What if you made a mistake? In the end, I decided not to do the surgery. At that point that I decided to detransition and live my life as a woman again. Even as an adult, it took me a long time to figure out who I was and who I wanted to be. Kids especially need to see a therapist before making any sort of permanent medical decisions like going on hormone blockers and surgeries especially. I mean, they don't even know what they want for dinner the next day, let alone what gender they are. The biggest mistake that I made was that I did not get the right amount of therapy or medical advice needed. These days, if you tell a parent if their child thinks that they might be transgender or has gender dysphoria, to wait and really consider it and maybe seek other therapy. You're just seen as transphobic now because you're not accepting people.
If you question this at all, you get labeled really quickly, correct?
You do, immediately as transphobic.
Why do you think that is?
I think that a lot of the transgender community, they push so much for acceptance that when you immediately, or anytime you start to question them, even if it's out of the goodness of your heart, just try and make sure that they're making the right decision, anything that goes against their narrative is just immediately labeled as trans.
Okay. And what happened when you began to schedule time to get a double mastectomy?
I haven't had any top surgeries, but I did get approved for it.
Okay, that's what it is. You got approved for it.
I did. I got approved. And how that worked, it was scarily easy to do because I had just called a therapist and I had scheduled one appointment, for a 30-minute session to talk about it. And I essentially walked in. I said, I identify as transgender and I want to get top surgery. And we chatted for a bit, maybe for half an hour. And at the end of the session, she wrote me an approval letter to send to my insurance. And then I got approved just like that.
When you first started, you went in, you said, to Planned Parenthood.
Yes.
And they gave you testosterone immediately.
Yeah, I essentially just made a phone call and said, I want to transition. And it was immediately given. I got a prescription and went to pick it up a week later.
Did they ask you questions? Did they do any psychological testing? Did they ask you why? What was your motive?
It was completely self-diagnosed. Well, self-diagnosed. I claimed that I had gender dysphoria and I wanted to transition, and they didn't really ask me any questions about it. I just called them and I said, when can I get this? And they just said they needed to write me a prescription for it and send it, and that's essentially
what happened. You had
no
proof that you were gender dysphoria. I never saw a therapist about it. You didn't.
Yeah, I didn't talk to anyone about it. Nobody medically professionally. I had just looked up. I did some trans research, I guess, into the transgender community and everybody online, and they just seemed so happy and successful. And at the time, I didn't see any information on detransition or any the negatives about it. And so I kind of got completely wrapped into that.
Gender dysphoria can be a miserable way to live if that's what they're experiencing. And there are criteria for that. And one of the criteria is time, that is persistent across time. But you didn't have any of those criteria. You didn't demonstrate that. You didn't document that. You didn't have any professional that documented that.
Nope.
You just said, I want testosterone. They gave it to you.
Yeah, I had confused, because I had become uncomfortable with how society had seen me as a woman sexually. And I had confused that, being uncomfortable with my gender as gender dysphoria and being uncomfortable with my body. So I didn't actually have gender dysphoria. I had just confused myself into thinking that I did.
So if you heard the languages, it was very quick and easy to get approved. All she did was mention, she thought that she had transgender dysphoria, and they immediately, after 30 minutes of talking, she got an approval letter to go to her insurance, and then the insurance approved it within 30 minutes. But you have people out here that really need real surgeries for real medical issues, and they're waiting months. I have my grandmother, she needs to see the doctor, and the soonest appointment is September 18th. What's today? The 15th, the 16th? August. Yeah, we're in August. So a month later just to see the doctor, but someone that wants to get mutilated, the doctors are available and ready to go within 30 minutes. Does anyone else see something wrong with that? When you have real medical issues like heart issues or, cancer issues, diabetes issue. You have people that really hip surgeries. I know another elder needs a hip surgery. He's been waiting and waiting for 18 months. But a person, a child or underage person or a young adult can go get their body parts removed and the insurance will pay for it within 30 minutes. There's something definitely wrong with our medical system, and there's something definitely wrong with our system, period. And there's something wrong with our educational system because guess what? They can do the same thing at school. Your child can go talk to a professional at school, and that professional can diagnose them and get them a letter saying that they get approved for the surgery, and they can get it done now in California as a minor. That same doctor can write the prescription, and the insurance will cover it. Most likely, the parents' insurance that's going to work, and our children are covered from us going to work, and that insurance company will cover our child being mutilated and chopped up without our knowledge, and that's law. There's something wrong. There's something called insanity. If you have any type of argument supporting that, reasoning why that works, no, that's called you're insane and you're evil. That's all it boils down to. That a child can go talk to the same psychiatrist or psychologist, and they write a prescription or give them a approval letter and to go and charge our insurance that we're paying for every month to help them for something serious that may happen, to get them mutilated. And so, this is real. It's happening more and more and more, and it keeps coming out. And we're going to keep exposing it until we get as many people aware, as many parents, and many adults that love children and want to protect our children and want to take our rights back as parents, saying that our children do not belong to you, they belong to us. I mean, this is insane. And we can't just keep going to work every day and acting like everything is okay. No, we got to do something. And the stay-at-home inaugural is an option. It is a result that can happen if we unify, if we become in unity. Then they cannot stop 100,000 people. They cannot stop 500,000 people. They cannot stop 1 million people. They can't stop 5 million people. They cannot stop us if we unify and say, enough is enough. Now we're going to start hitting you where it hurts, your pockets, because that's all you care about. You don't care about, they do not care about us going peacefully and asking them to stop. They've already proven that through the years. We did that for 5 years, where we were going every month to the district meetings, school district meetings, telling them, please stop teaching our kindergartners about anal and oral sex. We had over 10,000 signatures. That didn't mean anything. Yeah. They just put it through and continue to put it through. Yeah. And every person that got up and spoke about how this is sick and this, and guess what? The people on the board, most of them were grandparents' age. Yeah, that's crazy. No, well, what it is every one of them is receiving extra money. That's what it is. So it's not crazy. It is crazy that they're doing it, but you got to understand why they're doing it. They're not just doing it because they're insane that they really believe in this. They're doing it because they're getting a check. There's people that don't believe in this, but they're compromising and they're accepting it and they're ruling in his favor because they want that check. Well, all money is not good money. And to sell your soul for money, to sell children's souls for money, there's no price for that. There's no price. They can come offer me $1 billion. And if it's one child that I have to compromise, I'm turning that $1 billion down because I know God will bless me and I know that he's watching. Amen. And that's who I'm here to please. We're as parents, as adults, we're the safeguard and protect God's treasures, and that's his children. These children, really, they don't belong to us. They belong to him. But we've been given the privilege to protect and safeguard these children. And so that's what it's about. So let's go ahead and play the next video, which is a young man who the title is Every Morning I Wake Up Screaming in Pain. And so we want him, he's going to really break it down, the details of each age. It started when he was young. And so, we ready?
Yeah, perfect time.
All right, let's go.
I think that there were certain aspects of me psychologically and my temperament that made me susceptible. I was raised in a religious household, and it all pales in comparison to discovering online erotica, and that happened at the age of 9, which would eventually lead to pornography. At the age of 12, I started cross-dressing. And so all of those things combined and built up for years, that was starting to cause issues with my self-esteem, with my peers, the things that I would later refer to as gender dysphoria. I have even thought that it was kind of a fear of exposure that I would later refer to as gender dysphoria, because it caused so much anxiety. And this, I've written about this recently, where I went right back to that first time when I started cross-dressing, and I kind of uncoupled a just totally normal, like, procreative urge. But it got twisted up because of the fact that I felt like I had to keep it a secret and hold on to something and possess something, and then getting lost within myself. That was underneath the surface. And already by the age of 16, I was exposed to queer theory and queer activism, this education thing where they passed out these little, the different spectrums of your sex, your gender identity. I got the whole wrap. And so by the time I was in senior year, I was already starting to advocate for that ideology myself. When I went to college, all of those underlying issues kind of boiled over, caused so much anxiety and self-esteem issues, and that in turn affected my academic performance. Eventually, I dropped out with this kind of desire to transition. I remember the drive home from university was this wild trip where I didn't stop. I drove from Tennessee to Oregon without stopping, and I drove through a crazy storm. And in the middle of this blizzard, a story came on NPR about coming out and transitioning and how it was worth it. And I heard that story on the radio, and I was like, I gotta do it. I can do it. So I came home and fell in with a crowd of other kids that I went to high school with who were very brilliant, also getting into non-binary and queer stuff. And that was a crowd of people that would eventually peer pressure me into going to a gender clinic, where I was diagnosed with gender dysphoria in a single visit. The clinic was called Transactive. The clinician was a transgender woman, and I was coached through, these are the things you're going to need to say in order to get this prescription. I started the cross-sex hormones when I was 20 years old, and there was just no gatekeeping at the front. I saw an endocrinologist. I was really concerned about my fertility at the beginning. I kept bringing it up, and I was told repeatedly that the hormones are reversible. I was going to a therapist, and they also kind of encouraged me to deconstruct my thinking about adoption and what counts as a legitimate family. So I had a pretty rocky start to the beginning of my transition. It was making things so much worse. It was making things worse with my family, with my friends. But whenever that would come up in therapy, that was blamed on societal transphobia. And the solution, I've looked at the notes, the solution was to make the world less transphobic. I got laser hair removal, and that helped me pass, so I had the hair on my face removed. It started doing my eyebrows. I went to Portland, and there's just all these social services geared towards LGBTQ youth, where I was given free clothes, breast forms. There were trans and queer social workers encouraging me to change my name, my ID, everything. So my whole transition and livelihood ended up being supported by social services. I was housed through these groups. I was provided with friends, with vacation and other queer locations. I transitioned for 4 or 5 years. I began meeting other trans women and trans feminine people, and I fell into a crowd where a lot of the men had had their testicles removed. And that was kind of sold to me because I didn't have any desire for genital surgery. But these other men were removing their testicles and then saying that this was like a healthier way to transition. They didn't really want the vaginoplasty. They weren't sure. They didn't want to commit to the binary. But if they removed their testicles, then they could feminize more easily. They didn't have to take the spironolactone. Out in the woods, in these kind of anarchist camps that I would stay at, there were older trans women that were creating their own estrogen therapy with like herbs. They put the idea in my head of the orchiectomy, which is eventually what happened to me. I had made some attempts at detransitioning right at the end, and then just a lot happened. I aged out of the homeless youth continuum. I lost my housing. I was going through this terrible spiral, and the hospital had me on their list, and they got me. So I ended up having breast implants inserted, covered on Medicaid, and also an orchiectomy on Medicaid. And like within a month of the orchiectomy, I was suicidal with regret. And I told myself at the same time, it's like I regretted it, but I thought I don't regret it. I was still locked into the transgender ideology. And I believed that regret was part of being transgender. So I regretted it. As Jane Austen might say, I regretted it, but I didn't repent. I think she says things like that. I read Emma. But so I ended up catching COVID, which is what forced me to move back into my parents' house. And it just totally immobilized me. And that's what it took for it just to start falling away. And I woke up, the destruction of my testicles was just too much of the movement to ask of me. I found the Gender Wider Lens podcast, and that was part of what helped me. And a little bit of Twitter was good at helping unpack the ideology. And then I had to get off Twitter. I'm very glad I did that. I started to journal intensively. And I had just a wonderful self-discovery, finding my values. Just, I'm so grateful I was able to reconnect with my grandmother and my grandfather in the last years before they died. So I ended up being a caretaker for my grandmother and my grandfather. I'm so grateful that I got to be with them. And I journaled all the way through that, just having these kind of self-discoveries, the unpacking the ideology. There's some very extreme grieving going on. I no longer take the word PTSD and trauma so lightly after having bodily damage, because I would wake up screaming, remembering the surgery. I'd wake up screaming no, because I went into the surgery with a kind of awareness that I was going to regret it. I would jump out of bed having flashbacks, and I went through very extreme grieving. It was really hard, but I started testosterone replacement therapy in January. It would be months before I could afford to get the breast implants out, but by July of 2021, I was back in the workforce. I've been caring for my family since. It feels great. I'm a machine operator in the cannery where my parents met. My mom's family, because they're farmers, it's like I have a family connection to the place. I've been working there for 2 years now, and I'm getting involved in a community college for automotive technology, which just feels really good. It's rewarding. I have a Substack where I've written about these things that I'm processing. And I'm also working on a memoir where I can get a little bit deeper into the psychology of what led me to transition in the first place. So
so much revealed there.
Wow, yeah.
So much revealed. Where do I begin? Once again, if you see, the seeds were planted at 9, right?
Through the internet.
Yeah, through the internet. And so when we talked about the multiple phases that on this war front that is taking place, remember, entertainment, Disney, the school system, medical system, even the judicial system, what we've covered in the past, where there's judges that have ruled against parents with their own children because they wouldn't identify or support the child in this cultic ideology. So it's also in the judicial and where law enforcement has come and removed children from homes of their parents because of the same non-support. So if you or using the Bible to to train your children. Those things have been where law enforcement has got involved and removed children from parents' homes. And so we have to understand what is really taking place and what we're really up against. And all of it is for money. And so, this young man that just broke down a whole lot of verbiage in this cultic movement, and him being, pretty much hypnotized, sounds like, where, it's embedded in him, and these stages of life he goes through from childhood, and then when he becomes an adult, the support. Look, did you see all the social services that he was receiving? Yeah, free vacations, free food, free money, free housing, as long as he stayed on that course. And then, after a while, the gig is up. Once they get their paycheck, then they start cutting back on those things. And then he also had to pay, I'm sure the insurance that when he did the breast surgery, I'm sure that was covered.
Yeah.
But when he wanted to remove the breast, he had to save his money and pay for that. Notice these things. Why is there not any financial support for the detransgenderizing people, right? He wanted to remove the breast as a man, and then and then having other men influence him. But notice how he said certain words. They didn't fully commit, so they got their testicles removed, but they didn't do the full thing like Harrison did the previous episode that we did, where he had everything. It was all removed. And so, and then I would have to suspect that, that now this isn't facts, I can't prove this, but, I would have to suspect, were some of those men really genuine? Did some of those men really have their genitals removed or their testicles removed? Because there's so many people that are influencing this. And how do you know they didn't get a kickback? How do you know they weren't waiting on a paycheck to get once he got that surgery, if they just influenced and lied to him and said, oh, yeah, I did it too, man. This is a great way to do it. And then all along, if he actually, it's like a referral service, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
They can run it easily like a referral service. Like, hey, if you go out here and you get some young men to, believe that they can cut their testicles off and it'll be good for them, and you can just say you did the same thing, we'll give you $500 or $1,000 or whatever it may be, a referral service. I don't put this. Listen, it says for the love of money. So these people that love money, it says that the root of that is every kind of evil. So I don't put anything past these people because they've proven that they have no limits. They know no bounds. Right. From killing children, from manipulating children, from coaching children, coaching young adults, and lying the whole time, knowing that once they do that procedure, they're going to be in continual pain for the rest of their lives, and they'll never be the opposite sex that they told them that they were. So these people are bold-faced, like they used to say back in the day, bold-faced lying to them in their face, knowing what is really going to happen to them once they go through with it. You can't get any more evil than that. If I know as a doctor, and I know that once I chop you, that you're not going to be a woman. If you're a man, you're not going to be a woman. I know that, but I'm telling you you're going to be a woman. I can't get no more evil because all I can see is the $70,000 check I'm going to get, and I'm trying to get as many of those as I can. Yeah. So I can pay for my vacation homes and I can pay for my yachts and stuff like that. But that's what we're dealing with. And so, it's very shameful and it's very sad. Now, this next video that I want to play is a doctor who's coming out and whistleblowing against and exposing something that's been going on in the hospital. And here's another thing. We don't know how long this has been going on. And we don't know how many other hospitals are involved. But we do know that there's over 1,000 doctors that have joined into this, all from different type of professional backgrounds, as far as expertise, and have joined into not whistleblowing, but joined into doing these type of surgeries on young adults and on children. So the next video is a doctor that has been indicted with federal charges for saying and exposing what's been going on in a Texas hospital with hormone blockers and hormones and testosterone injections and all kind of stuff. So we're going to go ahead and play that video.
The hospital is lying to the public about mutilating and sterilizing these kids. We no longer become doctors if we don't expose that.
He made headlines after exposing the hospital where he worked for continuing to operate on preteen. Were you surprised that you were charged for violating HIPAA when you went to such great pain to make sure you did not?
What better way to discourage a whistleblower from coming out than to drag me through this?
They're wrong.
The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, issued an opinion stating that gender-affirming care could be investigated as child abuse. So in response to that, Texas Children's Hospital issued a statement publicly, unequivocally stating they were going to shut down their transgender program. But it was very soon after that, people would tell me about how they were implanting these puberty-blocking devices into 11, 12, 13-year-old kids. It was something that I knew I had to do something about, because if people knew I had the ability to make a change, then, I could never forgive myself. The day I was graduating was June 23rd. It was a Friday morning, and I was in my apartment. All of a sudden, I get an aggressive, unexpected knock on the door. Standing outside are two federal agents. They say they're with Health and Human Services and that they're investigating a case regarding medical records. It's one of those moments where time just stops.
Well, tonight, the good doctor is back, and he's since been charged with 4 felonies. By being a whistleblower, they claim he violated HIPAA. Now, he's not the only medical professional we spoke to who had grave concerns about what is happening to children behind closed doors. We spoke to a caseworker who happens to also be a queer woman married to a trans man. Here's what she had to say. When Jamie Reed worked as a caseworker at the Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital, she thought she was saving trans kids' lives. What changed your mind?
We started to see patients who were experiencing very significant medical harms. The patient said, I'm bleeding, I've bled through the pad, I've bled through my blue jeans, I've bled through the towel that I have wrapped around my waist, and I have soaked the sheets on the bed I'm sitting on. They had to basically try to suture back together their entire vaginal canal. It had torn open.
Of course, if this is debated, then there are those in the trans community that labels you as transphobic. An open debate about these things so people can have information from both sides. Thank you for being here again. I was really proud of the courage you had to come on and talk about what you did, and I'm here to tell you we support you 100% in what you had to say and the way you did it, because you have professional responsibilities, and I've operated under HIPAA for a long, long time. I understand the rules. I said at the time, you were very careful to not run afoul of those guidelines in any way.
Phil, it's been devastating to our family, both financially and emotionally. I wake up every morning until I go to bed at night thinking about the fact that my husband, because of this federal indictment, may not be there when our daughter is born, may not be there for the first part of her life. But as bad as that is, it's truly a privilege to take on this fight, because I truly believe that people like Eitan being so courageous and standing up for the truth and standing up for the kids that are being mutilated and sterilized is the only way that we're going to get this practice to stop.
By the way, you do have a career.
I'm a federal prosecutor myself, and I have the same title as the person coming after my husband.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
The level of corruption in this case is unimaginable. I would hope that if I had done even an ounce of the actions that this prosecutor has taken, that not only would I be fired, but my law license would be revoked.
Yeah.
They had threatened her as one of the first things.
That's true.
Threatened your career?
Yes, because when the agents came to our house in June of 2023, I told my husband of his constitutional right to ask for an attorney. And as a result, the prosecutors threatened to tell the background investigators who were doing my background for my security clearance that I'd interfered in a federal investigation, for telling him that he could exercise his constitutional right to an attorney.
We're going to talk more about that.
That's a lot. A doctor and a federal prosecutor This is alarming, but it's real. And how many doctors do we know that are not saying anything? How many hospitals in America do we have that are doing this to? So what's happening is we're taking our children for one thing, and they're doing this behind closed doors. And so we have to really wake up and really unite and really stand together, because if they're coming after doctors and federal prosecutors, on our own, what do we have besides the power of God to rely on? And so we have to really see what we're up against, and we have to really join in and pray, number one, and also there's strength in numbers. We have to understand that they can't stop 1,000 people, they can't stop 10,000, they can't stop 100,000, they can't stop 1,000,000. Right. The more numbers we have, the less power they have. But when it's one person here and one person there, they're destroying lives. So we will be keeping that doctor and his wife in prayer. Yes. And I pray that people rally. I know there's people that are, but more people. This will cause us to wake up and cause us to invoke change. And one individual, they can start something. They can cause a ripple. But we need a wave. We need more than a rock that ripples the water. We need a tidal wave, and a tidal wave of parents, protectors of children, all that are in their professional fields, use their resources. We build these schools. We gain teachers. We gain principals that are not in agreement with what's going on. We use our influence and our resources to reach out as far as we can reach. I got a radio show host that I'm going to be going on my second episode probably in the next week or so. But he's in Boston, but he's helping us. He's a Fox News radio host, and he's helping. He's in support of this. So we're trying to do as much as we can to make people aware, and we need your help. That's the bottom line. We need everyone that's viewed this. We need your help. Time is of the essence. More and more laws are going against us and our families, and they're making it legal to kill, steal, and destroy. And there's scripture that specifically breaks this is what everything we just saw, to let you know that this is not a conspiracy, and this is not religious, and this is not, we're far-fetched people, or we're way out there. No, this is in our face, and it's real life. And the scripture talks about these exact people that we're going against in this spiritual war, which is naturally taking place. And so in Proverbs chapter 26, we start in verse 22. It says, the words of a whisperer or slanderer are like dainty morsels or words of sport to some, but to others are like deadly wounds. Now, we've been hearing about all these wounds of these transgender people that are being mutilated, and these children that are being mutilated. Yeah. And they're real wounds. And so that's what the scriptures are telling us. This is what happens when we trust these people and listen to these people and believe the people. Remember who the people are: the lovers of money, which is the open door to the root of all evils. Every kind of evil is open to the person that loves money. We all need money to survive, but when you love it, like this doctor, he didn't love money more than children. Right. If he would have kept his mouth closed, I'm sure he'd have made a big profit. Mm-hmm. But he couldn't do that. No, this is a challenging word to all the rest of you doctors out there. You should be doing the same thing.
Yep.
If you're aware of this and you know this, or if you don't, start searching, start looking, start paying attention.
Right.
Start looking for it in your hospital. Start looking for it in your colleagues' hospitals.
Right.
That's accountability. And so it says, and they go down into the innermost parts of the body or of the victim's nature. Look how the scripture is spot on to what these people that we're hearing and we're listening to, these victims, what are they talking about? They're talking about they're confused. They're talking about what was told to them. They're talking about the young man before was saying how on his drive, he heard on the radio station, he heard a story of someone that transgendered, and so it convinced him. All these things. But in the end of the day, guess what? It affects their whole nature, their psyche, their belief system, their identity, who they are. In God, we have identity. Through Jesus, we have identity. We know who we are. Doesn't mean that we don't struggle. Doesn't mean that we don't have to deal with things. But the scriptures help us deal with these things that the world has no answers for. The professionals have no answers for. Or they do have answers, but their answers are full of deception and lies and deceit to gain mammon, which is money. Okay, now, it says, verse 23, burning lips, uttering insincere words of love. See, that's what they're telling these people. They're acting like they care. These professionals, these Planned Parenthoods, these psychologists, these psychiatrists, they're acting like they care, but they're insincere words of love. They have no love because their goal is a paycheck. So the scripture is giving us detail of these characteristics to search for when we're seeing these people, when we're talking to these people, to that highlights who they really are, versus looking at their awards and their certificates and their licenses on a wall and how they're dressed or what they drive. This is talking about what's behind all of that when they talk, what's in their innermost of their hearts. Wickedness. And it says, burning lips, uttering insincere words of love, and a wicked heart are like an earthen vessel covered with the scum thrown off from molten silver, making it appear to be solid silver. See, that's what they're doing. They're saying words that sound good. They're giving pretense of, you're going to be happy. You're going to be joyful. You're going to be fulfilled. You're going to have a sense of fulfillment when you remove your body parts, when you allow us to remove your body parts. You're going to have a sincere, you're going to be made whole. That's an appearance of real silver, but it's just molten that was thrown off. Right. So it's not real. It's not genuine. And burning lips mean they can't wait to lie. Yeah. Their lips are burning with lies. Their lips are on fire with lies because they're hot and they're from hell. Right. Yeah. Okay, it says, he who hates pretends with his lips, but stores up deceit within himself. That's these professionals. That's these lawmakers. That's these educators. That's these law enforcement people. Those federal agents, they knew what they were doing. Right. You're going to show up at a man's house that is trying to protect children in good conscience. You should have known you should use your badge to protect and serve. Right. Yes. Not just follow orders because they say, oh, this guy, each one of those federal agents that showed up, in your heart that man was protecting children. So that means when you got those orders, you were supposed to make a stand and say, hey, even if it costs me my job, I can't go try to investigate and serve somebody that he supposedly he disregarded or he broke the law of Hippo, but they're putting sterilizing and mutilizing children in the hospital. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then you have a federal prosecutor that says to her husband, you have a right to an attorney, and they telling her you're going to be up on charges. We're going to threaten. They threaten her because she told her husband you can get an attorney. I mean, what does America come to?
Right.
So she works in the federal system and was threatened by the federal system to shut her mouth, or you're going to get it too, what we're doing to your husband and we're doing to your family, but you can lose your license from saying to your husband, you need an attorney. This is America, you guys. This is not the America that, hey, guess what? In 1963, when they took God and they took the scriptures out of school and they took it out of law, guess what? That's how we got here. That's how these things are happening. You heard him say, he said it was so divorced. The lies that they just threw on paper was so divorced from the truth. It was unbelievable. It was even hard to even believe that they can say the things they were saying. It says, verse 25, when he speaks kindly, do not trust him. I hope that everyone's paying attention. These professionals, even though they have nice words and they speak in a nice, soft tone, the scripture said don't trust them because of what's in their heart. The scriptures reveal what's in people's heart by the way of their action and their speech. These should be triggers. These should be red flags. Just because they got a doctorate degree, just because they're a professional, just because they drive a Mercedes, just because they have children themselves, just because they dress up in a suit, just because they talk nice, don't trust them.
Right.
Do not trust him, for 7 abominations are in his heart. Hey, and guess what? The gay and the transgender community, that's an abomination towards God. And so it says all 7 abominations are in that person's heart that loves the money. Abominations are what God hates. And one of the things he hates is for those that destroy children. That's an abomination to God. And it should be an abomination to every sane person that loves children and has a family. So I prayed that, was that all of them? Oh, though his hatred covers itself with guile, his wickedness shall be shown openly before the assembly. That's for us that have a spiritual awareness, us that have common sense, us that love children. When you listen to these people, everything about them wickedly is being shown. So let's share the information. Let's share the link. Let's share the website, the Stay at Home inaugural. Let's share that. Let's like and subscribe so that we can continue to grow. We have 6 weeks to get as many parents as involved as we can.
Those are the 3 top apps for parental right.
Okay, there we go. Aura, Bark, and M-Spy.
Yeah, for parents.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I hope you guys can, they can always go back and get these 2 right.
Right.
So those are for the parent protecting apps for our children on the phones and tablets and stuff like the technology.
Yeah.
So we pray that everyone has a blessed night. I pray that this is jarring and causes movement inside of you to get this out. And we'll see you again next week on another episode of the Truth Unspoken.